Good evening, students. Harshita, Karishma, Yasari, Shivam, good evening. Pranam to you, Shivam. I'm good, Harshita. How are you? Well, it's basically dry cough now, so much better than before. I've started to get smell back, so good news. What happened, Harshita? Are you all right? Bimal, good evening. Jyoti, good evening. Rajshekhar, good evening. We'll wait for a minute so that others also join, then we'll begin. Okay. Scooty say, how do you apply brakes, Harshita, in your scooty? By your hand or by your feet, if you know what I mean? Or by your shoes? Okay, okay. Well, first of all, Harshita, you don't drive a scooty or you don't drive a motorcycle, you ride a motorcycle. There's a very fine difference. You drive a car, but you ride a motorcycle. Obviously, you aren't, Harshita. Just for fun. I was trying to pull your leg. Good evening, ASP. So, have you heard of this news? US President Donald Trump has threatened Nigeria that they will wipe out the Islamic terrorists. Any idea what we are talking about? Have you heard of this news? Donald Trump basically threatened Nigeria that all hell will go loose on Nigeria. And surprisingly, Nigerian government has welcomed that yes, we want your help, but provided you don't violate our territorial integrity and sovereignty. Yes, attack on Christians. Good, Shivam. First, let us understand where is Nigeria. Nigeria is located in western part of Africa. Countries bordering Nigeria: on the north, Niger; on the northeast, Chad; on the east, Cameroon; on the south, it is surrounded by Atlantic Ocean; on its west, Benin. So these are the countries which boundaries or which shares its boundaries with Nigeria. Now, one thing you'll have to understand: Nigeria, like us, was a country ruled by Britishers, right? And they left Nigeria in 1960. So what happens when a colonial regime leaves out a country? What happened to India? Well, actually, thankfully, partition did not happen in Nigeria, but it increased communal tensions. It increased economic inequality. The education system in Nigeria is basically top down. So the benefits of education system reaches only to few. So this perpetuated or exacerbated inequality. So this was the state of Nigeria when Britishers left the country. Now Nigeria also has presence of large number of people who hail from Muslim religion, and they also have large presence of Christian people. In Nigeria, the northern part of Nigeria is less economically prosperous as compared to southern part. In this southern part of the region, mostly people live, they are following which religion? Christianity. And particularly in the northeastern part of the country, people live who majorly follow Islam. Right? And this is the very region where a terrorist organization, Boko Haram, originated. Have you heard of this organization, Boko Haram? Do you know the meaning of the word Boko Haram? The word Boko means Western education, Western philosophies, Western principles. So Boko Haram essentially means frowning upon anything that shows Western values. Yes? So who do you think Boko Haram targets? किसको टारगेट करता है बोको हराम? Boko Haram basically targets people who do not align to their idea of Islam. So Boko Haram targets the Nigerian state. Why it targets Nigerian state? Because Boko Haram wants to make a caliphate, whereas Nigerian state is a democratically elected state. So first it targets Nigerian state because Nigerian state is a democratically elected state and Boko Haram wants to make a caliphate in Nigeria. The second target of Boko Haram are Muslim minority people, majorly Shias. There is also an Islamic State of West Africa. And Islamic State basically follows the principle of Sunni Islam. So naturally, both of their organization enemy become Shia. Caliphate means the rule of Allah, not the rule of people. Islamic State is basically called as Caliphate. And they also target people of other religions, most notably being Christians. Head of the Muslim world is known as Caliph. He is seen as a direct nominee of the Allah. So the rule of Allah would be Caliphate. So these are the primary targets of Boko Haram. Now if you remember, not so well off in past, Donald Trump also highlighted plight of white people as they were suffering violence in Republic of South Africa. Now why is Donald Trump, who is a head of state of US, is concerned about Christians and white people living in Africa? Any idea? There is a political reason behind it. सोचो सोचो. Nope, not Islamophobia. In Panchayat na Vikas, you know na Vikas in Panchayat, the assistant to the Sachiv, he says na politics are politics. Why? Well, white people who are Christians, they are the primary vote bank of Republican Party, and they are the ones who are the vociferous supporters of Donald Trump. Yes. So that is why he has raised this demand that if you don't rein in the Islamist politics, we will intervene in your country. Now tell me, what are the challenges Trump would face in this kind of intervention if he were to order US military to intervene in Nigeria? Tell me. We have discussed this not so long ago. You should be able to tell me. What was the first area of promises that Donald Trump made to US people? He said that US would not get involved in wars of others. Right? So this was his political promise. Second factor is the strategy called as boots on ground strategy. You know what is the strategy? Boots on ground strategy. Sending soldiers on foreign soil. Right? Do you think sending soldiers in foreign soil and the probability of at least some of them who might be killed in action is something that is politically acceptable to American people right now? Have you seen US directly involved in any war by sending soldiers after the conflict of Iraq? They have used aerial bombing, but have they sent soldiers on ground? No. Why? This is politically unacceptable to American people. And when you send soldiers, howsoever good your army is, there is a possibility that some of your soldiers might be killed. So when their bodies are flown back to their home country, obviously it would anger people. It should anger people. So another option that Donald Trump has is do aerial bombing. And you know the problem in aerial bombing is that you need precision targets. You can't just bomb the entire city. So this sometimes can be very difficult. There is another problem with aerial bombing is that US up till 2024 had a large military base in the neighboring country of Nigeria, that is Niger. Where is it located? Niger, I told you. Can you recall? It shares northern or north of Nigeria. Niger is located. Now in Nigeria, 2024 the government changed and it asked US government to dismantle their army base or dismantle their military base. So now logistically it would be difficult, if not impossible, for US to conduct bombing missions in Nigeria. Understood? So map हो गया, strategy हो गया, politics हो गया. Anything left? Economic angle. Nigeria is one of the largest economy in Africa. It hosts the largest petroleum refinery in the entire continent. Right? And you know what is the, it is also one of the major exporters of crude oil. You know, even India imports a lot of crude oil from Nigeria. What is the grade of crude oil of Nigeria? Any idea? You know now what is a grade of crude oil? Crude oil has sulfur. So the amount of sulfur present in the crude oil determines the quality of the crude oil. So across the world there is crude oil, but the presence of sulfur in the crude oil available in different parts of the globe, it differs. So according to the amount of sulfur present in that crude oil, we categorize crude in different grades. For example, crude oil that comes from US, it is of grade called as WTI. Can anyone tell me the full form of WTI? This was a question in UPSC. What are the famous grades of crude oil? West Texas Intermediate. There is also another grade of crude oil called as Brent crude. You know where this originates from? Primarily from North Sea. There is also a crude grade called as Urals. Any guesses from where it might originate? Urals? Russia. So Urals is a grade of crude oil from Russia. The grade of crude oil that comes from Nigeria is called as Bonny Light. What is it called? Bonny Light. Understood this? ये याद रहेगा? So economic angle भी हो गया. Social angle तो we had already covered, inequality and difference in the communal sentiments. Now tell me, what are antibodies? कोविड में बहुत सुना होगा. Tell me, what are antibodies? Well, which is best now? The grade of crude oil, I'm assuming you are going to ask, Shivam. Well, there is no such thing as best grade of crude oil. We construct our refineries, and the equipments installed in those refineries are specifically designed for a particular kind of crude oil. So suppose if we majorly import crude oil from Middle Eastern countries, so most of our refineries would be designed to refine the kind of crude oil or which is available in Middle East, or exactly the sulfur content that is coming from Middle Eastern crude oil. So if we import another crude oil, that might not give us best result. Similarly, refineries in US, they might be designed primarily for WTI grade of crude oil. So it depends. If you ask what is best, wheat or rice, somebody who likes to eat roti, they would say wheat is better. But somebody who's accustomed to eat rice, they would say rice is better, right? So there is no particular answer to this. Well, antibodies are the kind of immune response that your body generates after it encounters a foreign strain. And this foreign strain might be virus, fungi, or bacteria. Right? Now suppose COVID-19 happened. Why it spread so widely initially? Because in human body, antibodies required to fight COVID were not present. But when people caught COVID multiple times, the intensity of COVID in terms of harmful effect to human bodies, they reduced. Why? Bodies had presence of antibodies. Okay? Now there is also a possibility that we can add or generate antibodies inside the human even without subscribing to that person to a particular virus. How can we generate antibodies artificially in a human body? Or how can we create circumstances where antibodies would develop in our bodies? Yes, vaccination, good. Have you heard of plasma therapy? Plasma therapy? What did we do in plasma therapy? We took the blood out. We extracted antibodies from that blood and inserted antibodies in another person. Similarly, there is also a thing called as monoclonal antibodies. They are laboratory produced antibodies which are designed specifically to mimic the immune system's ability or response to fight harmful pathogens. And they are targeted for a specific antigen. And when they bind to the target protein, they basically generate immune response in our body. And this monoclonal antibody has been made for Nipah viral disease. Have you heard of Nipah virus? In which state it spread? That came in news. In India, Kerala. Now, this is a RNA virus. This is a single-stranded RNA virus. It first originated in Malaysian pig farmers. You know how? This is a zoonotic disease. What do you mean by a zoonotic disease? What do you mean by a zoonotic disease? Origin in animals. And due to mutation in the strain, due to genetic mutation, this sometimes may even trickle down to humans. And this is what happened in case of Nipah. It originated in pigs and then they trickled down to pig farmers. And when this virus enters human body, it presents or it demonstrates itself in form of encephalitic syndrome. You know now what is encephalitis disease? Also called in India as Hathi Pav. It is inflammation of brain fever. And in pigs, this virus primarily affects their respiratory and nervous system. So this is the effect of this virus on humans and on animals. COVID-19 zoonotic, bird flu zoonotic, Nipah virus zoonotic. Now let us come to this high seas treaty, very important. Any doubts up till now? Well, Akshay, I'm not sure about AIDS. Can anyone tell me about AIDS? Is it zoonotic disease? Now tell me, what is a high sea? Is sea getting high by consuming drugs? Is it high seas? Yes, Shakti Raj, good. High sea is a sea which is beyond how much distance? Beyond how much distance? Beyond 200 nautical miles. And how much this is in kilometers? So there are three categories of water: territorial water, this is up to 12 kilometers; exclusive economic zone, this is up to 200 nautical miles, and beyond that, high sea, that is more than 200 nautical miles. So this treaty deals with high seas exclusively. Understood this? Now what do you think this treaty is about? What do you think this treaty is about? अब बताओ. High seas has presence of what? Marine biodiversity. It has presence of what? Marine biodiversity. Right? And what are the problems global marine biodiversity are facing? It is facing problems of overfishing or intensive resource extraction, as you can call it. It is facing the problems of pollution. Any other problem it is facing? It is facing another problem called as deep sea mining. Any other thing you can recall? It is facing problem of climate change. It is facing another problem called as bioprospecting. It is facing another problem of bioprospecting. You know what is this bioprospecting means? Coral bleaching is a consequence of climate change. Oil spill basically is a pollution. Bioprospecting is when companies utilize common resources for their own economic benefit. So this is the problem high seas faces. Now tell me, what should high sea treaty include? No law governs them. Therefore, you required a high sea treaty. Now, high sea treaty includes the provision to create marine protected areas. The provision to create marine protected areas. And the goal of high sea treaty is called as 30 by 30 target. You know what this means, 30 by 30 target? To protect 30% of world ocean by the year 2030. Someone said fair share of marine resources, good, Chanu. So second it deals with is sharing of, it deals with sharing of marine resources. And how should you share this marine resource? How you should share this marine resource? Fairly. What do you mean by the word fairly here? Anyone? And why do you need this provision, sharing of marine resources? Anyone? Chanu, I hope you will answer this question. Is it equally distributed right now? Who are the major companies extracting, or where those major companies who are extracting these marine resources belong from? Developed countries. Third is technological transfer. Technological transfer and capacity building. And capacity building. No need to explain this. Fourth one is monitoring and compliance. What's the point of a law if you can't ensure implementation and compliance of a law? So there is a body, UN, Convention on Laws of Sea. So under this body there would be a mechanism that would be created for ensuring monitoring and compliance. Fifth is environmental impact assessment, that any projects in the future for extraction of resources in high sea should get clearance for environment impact assessment. Now, do you think India is a part of this treaty? Look at the provisions. Well, suppose if there is a developed country, it is extracting the resources from the water which is very close to a underdeveloped country. So rather than a developed country extracting the resources on their own, they should transfer this technology to a underdeveloped country and help them mine the resources very near to their waters. This is the third point, Arbinda. Have you heard of the differences between these words? Signed and ratified? Have you heard of these words? Signed a treaty and ratified a treaty? सुना तो होगा. Well, India has signed High Seas Treaty, but it has not ratified the High Seas Treaty. When the country signs any treaty, it needs to be ratified by a necessary organization. In some countries, you need ratification by passing a law in the parliament. In India, the ratification is provided by Union Cabinet. So, Union Cabinet would give this approval to President of India or send this recommendation to President of India, and she would ratify it. So this process has not been completed as far as India is concerned. Understood? Official name of this treaty is Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. It has been ratified up till now by 60 plus countries, and it will enter into force from January 2026. Understood? Any doubts? Any doubts? Have you heard there is a genre of music called as heavy metal, death metal? There is, but we are not going to talk about it. We are going to talk about actual heavy metals. Now, there is a study that has found that heavy metals like chromium, cadmium, copper, lead, zinc, their contamination have been found in the fish tissues who are there in Kaveri River. Now, there is a biological term used here called as bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Have you heard of this word? What is the difference between these two terms? Can anyone tell? Very well known है ASB, तो बताओ difference. What is the difference between bioaccumulation and biomagnification? एएसबी बताएगा। What does the word accumulate mean in English? Accumulation means addition, right? So bioaccumulation is increase of toxins in a living organism. In a living organism. And the word biomagnification means increase of toxins up the food chain. So suppose a phytoplankton gets eaten, or a polluted or a toxin rich phytoplankton gets eaten by a small fish. Then a small fish gets eaten by a large fish. Then the person hunts or catches that large fish, mast tel mein fry karke eats it. That person gets the toxin. Suppose that person likes to go to Jim Corbett, thinking that no tiger is there. But if a tiger finds that person, eats that person, then tiger gets the toxin. So this toxin, right from phytoplankton, has been added to the food chain up the order. This is an example of biomagnification. Now suppose a fish, small fish living in the deepest part of the ocean, eats on a polluted phytoplankton his throughout life. So the amount of toxins in that fish gets accumulated over time. That is the example of bioaccumulation. Understood the difference? Both of them relates to increase in toxicity, but bioaccumulation is within the living organism. Biomagnification is increase in toxins up the food chain. Magnifying of toxins up the food chain. Swarupam and Kritika is like samajh aa gaya, aage badho. Right? Now what would happen if you would eat fish that is caught in Kaveri water? You might get these toxins yourself. ASB, yes, hand raise किया था, बोलो ASB. Now, if you eat fish caught from Kaveri water which is polluted, is it an example of bioaccumulation or biomagnification? Both. Good answer, Swarupam. ASB हैंड रेस किया था, बोलो. ओके, हैंड रेस करने की जरूरत नहीं है. मैं कितने बार बोलता हूं, क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया करो. एंड इफ यू हैव toxin led fish, it might lead to these kind of diseases. Understood? And what are the contamination sources? Discharge of industrial effluents. Now this was which river? Kaveri river. So naturally this news becomes important. Kaveri river के बारे में पढ़ना. Now what are the important things that you'll have to know about any river? Shaktiraj, I did not get your question. origin and drainage. Then comes the states through which it is flowing. Then comes notable tributaries. And one more important thing that I told you, good Shakti Raj cities. Now Kaveri River originates in Brahmagiri Hills, which is in Western Ghats in the state of Karnataka, and it flows through Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Puducherry. So 3 states and 1 union territories. The major tributary on left bank are Harangi, Hemwati, Shimsha and Arkavati. I have given an abbreviation hash. Right? Right bank tributaries include KBA, Kabini, Bhavini and Amravati, and NSL, that is Noyal, Suvarnathi and Lakshman Trithi. These are the important tributaries of, well, it is given in NCERT, this one. So you might be right, but you know what would happen in case this question comes in UPSC exam? UPSC would follow what is given in NCERT. Okay, Akshay? So yes, you might be right, but UPSC is a powerful body. They would say NCERT mein likha hai, then what would you do? Okay, so please remember this. There are many questions in economy also, right? That was wrong, but UPSC said that no, this is right, and we have to take it from them. And it drains into Bay of Bengal. The most important dam on Kaveri River is Krishna Raja Sagar Dam. There is a river, there is a very famous park. How many of you have ever been to Mysuru? Have you ever been to this garden? Very beautiful garden it is. Krishna Raja Sagar Dam is just right in front of that garden. And you know who constructed this dam? Under whose engineering this dam was constructed? Diwan of Mysore. Do you remember his name? Vishwesarvaya. Good. And waters of this river support major cities like Mysuru, Erode and Trichy. Where is Trichy and Erode located, in which state? Erode and Trichy both located in Tamil Nadu, not Karnataka. Mysore is in Karnataka. Yes, it also supports now drinking water to Bengaluru. Now the CAG has constituted a committee to look into problems relating to centrally sponsored scheme. So now you guys tell me, what is the difference between centrally sponsored and central sector schemes? I will not tell you anything. बताओ बताओ, सब चुप है, ऐसा क्या सोचना पड़ रहा है? एक दो तो डिफरेंस बता ही सकते हो. फंडिंग, यस. सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम मीन्स पार्ट ऑफ फंडिंग इज गिवन बाय यूनियन, रेस्ट इज गिवन बाय स्टेट. Central sector scheme fully funded by union government. Who implements centrally sponsored scheme? Who identifies beneficiary in centrally sponsored scheme? State government. Who implements मनरेगा? मनरेगा में मजदूरों को कौन काम देता है? स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. बेसिकली पंचायत देता है, बट दैट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इज डेलीगेटेड बाय स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. सो फंडिंग में डिफरेंस है फर्स्ट, and in terms of implementation also. Now I told you the observation has been made by CAG. CAG is also known as friend, philosopher and guide of parliament. Why is it called as friend, philosopher and guide of parliament? What is the responsibility of parliament? Parliament's primary responsibility is to ensure accountability of executive. How will it ensure accountability of executive? It needs reports now on how much money government is spending, how much permission of spending had parliament given to it. So who gives all this report to parliament? CAG through audit, right? Qualification of CAG 6 years or up to 65 years of age, and removal is in the same manner as that of judge of Supreme Court. So how can he remove from office, the CAG? Tell me. How can CAG be removed from office? It is not called as impeachment. The word impeachment is only used officially for removal of president. Incorrectly, Indian Express, Hindu both were using impeachment of High Court and Supreme Court judge, but impeachment word itself is officially only used for president. Rest all of them, they are removed from office. So to remove a judge of Supreme Court, you require the motion to be passed by both houses through special majority. Special majority is at least 50% of the total members present. In addition to that, 2/3 of members present and voting. So Judge of Supreme Court and CAG are removed from office through what is called as special majority. Understood this? Any doubts? Any doubts? Now, have you heard of gallium nitride, GaN chargers? Anyone? Does anyone use GaN charger? For example, I use this charger. This is a GaN charger. You know, how small this is in comparison to other chargers? but this is powerful enough to charge my mobile phone and my laptop at the same time. And this is specifically called as GAN charger. It is even written over here, GAN charger. This is a semiconductor technology that was developed specially for military. And now it is used most famously in making chargers. You know what is the benefit of GAN charger? Or benefit of gallium nitride? It is written like this. The benefits of these chargers are that they are smaller and lighter. What happens with conventional chargers when you do intense charging? It gets warm, right? It gets warm, right? But this GAN charger is relatively cooler. And when temperature of any charger gets controlled, it can do fast charging. So this Chotu charger literally fully charges my laptop in 1 hour. And it also supports multi-device charging. So I taken out this charger from my bag specifically to show you that yes, GAN chargers exist. So there are literally 160 watt chargers, this big only, this big, 160 watt chargers. It would charge 5-6 devices at the same time. You know, most of the content creators, they use GAN chargers. Yes, it is better than silicon. That is why it is also a bit expensive also. My reason of taking this charger is that I don't have to carry 2 chargers, 3 chargers at a time. I can just rely on one charger and it would do everything. And talking about the size of the charger, it is also very manageable, portable. So this was gallium nitride. Any doubts in the class? And it is also more energy efficient. Well, I don't know. I bought it about 2 years back. It was somewhere around 27,000-2800. But this is a 65 watt charger. If I go above 65 watt, 100 watt, it increases exponentially. For example, a 160 watt charger somewhere comes around 12,000, 13,000 rupees. Well, the phone I bought, there was no charger in the box of that phone, so I had no other option but to buy a charger. These days, in order to save money, companies don't provide you the charging adapters in the phones itself, in the box itself. Any doubts, students? Any doubts? I am assuming no. Well, the charger does not differentiate between the voltages. It is the device. There is a maximum capacity of a device of how much power it can take. So, for example, my phone, the maximum power it can take is 45 watts. So, it would only take 45 watts from the charger. But my laptop requires 65 watt. So, it can take 65 watt from the charger. It is not the charger which is smart. It is the device which is smart. And charger maximum provides you the 65 watt charge. Okay? You have to remember that. वो कहते हैं ना कि don't plug your phone for the entire night, it would damage your device. गलत बोलते हैं. Because if your phone is smart enough to run internet over it, it is smart enough to not take power from the charger if it reaches 100% battery. Well, don't go into Hindu and Indian Express's articles. The organizations are perfectly independent. People have to justify an article na. In order to write an article, they'll have to provide arguments, so that is why they make up arguments. Okay, everyone, I'll meet you tomorrow. Bye bye. Have a good day.